Western men have lost that sense of I'm the protector, because we have the women today saying, I don't need you. I pay my own rent. I live my own life. If I need help, I can call 911. 911. And this is why the men have kind of backed off. So like I've seen that Western women, they don't depend on their family men anymore. We still depend on our family men, and only our family men, to protect us.
How do other cultures feel about families living together? And I'm not gonna. People can just kind of chime in as they. Please.
I feel like it's less about culture now and more about the economy. Like, you know, I would love for it to be like, oh, it's a culture thing, because I definitely have families that like to live around each other, and that's like both of my sides. But for me personally, I was in my parents' house for a longer period of time because it was just too expensive, and still is too expensive. I'm in a very nice setup right now, but it's too much to live on your own. And to have extra help in the house, to have someone who's like, oh, I can pay for the groceries this week, is, you know, a little bit off of that hardship. So that's how I feel anyway.
Sayeda, did you come up?
Kelly.
Oh, Zamira, I'm sorry.
Kelly.
Yes.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the question, culturally, in my culture, of course, we believe that no one should leave the house unless they're married, because us brown people, we don't believe in going anywhere alone. We don't believe in doing anything alone, because it's just the way to be. We're, you can call us pack animals, I guess, you know, like wolves. We believe that the girl should stay home until she's married, and so should the son. So, and sometimes even when they do get married, the son brings the daughter to his family's house and they live together there. So
and that is that a Muslim thing or like a Lebanese thing?
No, that's more I don't know, it's a cultural thing, but it could be both, honestly, because even Islamic culture, we believe that the girl should not leave her house until she's married. So because we believe that the woman should always be under the umbrella of a man, under the gaze of a man. So if it's not her father, then it should be her husband. If it's not her husband, then it should be a guardian. We call it like a wali. If it's not that, then it has to be even her son. Her son could even be the one that watches over her. Once he reaches a certain age, your son can then become your protector in our religion and culture.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Iris, did you want to chime in?
I mean, I do agree with Amira in the sense of, I think that is one of the reasons why probably in American culture, why women are devalued sometimes. And I'm not saying that women can't be independent, but I do think it's important when you have the presence of a man that is showing that she has somebody at home that's protecting her. If you do cross the line, please know that there are people that are watching over her. So she has a covering. And I do understand, just culturally speaking, we could go probably too far into this, but just the way some of our culture is set up, broken homes. And I know that's no fault of anybody, so I'm not speaking against that, but it has set up a precedence where women probably feel like they do have to look out for themselves. And sometimes they do feel vulnerable. But even kind of what you said, Amira, our dad passed away last year, but our brother's kind of taken on that role where he's, very much like concerned about anything that has to do with our life, just making sure that we know that we have like just a support in our life, because our dad was very much a man of wisdom and insight, and we went to him for a lot of just knowledge. He's very knowledgeable, and he was very willing to share that with everyone, but he had great insight in just this life. And so I see my brother stepping into that role, and I think it's always wise to have somebody else's vantage point, and even just a male's standpoint. So for us, I think it is wise, if you do have opportunity to live at home with your parents, I think at least that's a roommate that that you like. But I do understand if you are, you're independent and you want to take that step. I do think it's important that you still have a support system and people that like are checking in on you and making sure you're okay, because the world is changing and it's becoming a little bit more dangerous. And I'm trying to be conservative with that, but I do think it's important.
You understand, like what your brother is doing is very rare to see in Western men in today's world. Western men have lost that sense of I'm the protector, because we have the women today saying, I don't need you. I pay my own rent. I live my own life. If I need help, I can call 911. 911. And this is why the men have kind of backed off. So you like I've seen that Western women, they don't depend on their family men anymore. We still depend on our family men and only our family men to protect
Yeah.
us.
And I do, because I do feel like my family, no matter what happens in life, they're gonna, they're gonna cover us. They're gonna, as the world say, have my back. And I'm not saying that, everybody's family set up this way, but our family is very close growing up, and I just feel like we've all invested in each other so deeply that if anything happened, my family's the first group I'm turning to. And we've taught. I work with youth, so I always tell youth, as you grow up, yes, you're going to gain your independence, but you always want to have a sound voice in your life. And for us, it's our parents or loved ones, or our godparents. But there always needs to be somebody in your life that is looking out for you, because this world, it's becoming very skewed. So you want to make sure you have somebody that you can trust, and a solid person that you can turn to. And for me, that's my family. So I do think it's important, even if you do move outside the house, that you're still checking in. This is what I tell young girls: when you're going to college or when you're going out and abroad, you need to be wise and make sure you're either going with somebody or you're checking in with somebody. Growing up doesn't mean that you're not accountable. You probably should be even more accountable and wise in this generation, because like I said, I mean, we all know what the world's looking like, and women are coming up missing every day. So I do think it's very important to have people that are watching out for you, and people that you trust.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very intense, Iris.
Sorry,
But
I wasn't trying to be
no, no,
intense.
no.
Apologize.
No, I appreciate. I feel like it got really serious, so I appreciate that.
I'm sorry. It's just our dad grew up, just a little context and background. Our dad grew up in New York, and just living in as you guys know, living in a very large city, there's always kind of just the way it moves so quickly, and there's schemes and scams and gangs. He worked really hard to stay out of that kind of lifestyle, but he still picked up a lot of street smart. So he living in New York. So he was very serious about us watching out for each other, making sure we were mindful of our surroundings, making sure when we went out we were together, making sure we weren't even allowed to date when we were growing up. We were, he was very, very serious about that. He's
You
like, if
weren't
you
allowed
want
to
to,
go to the bathroom by yourself.
yes, he's like, there's a lot of women who get kidnapped in the bathroom. So he just gave us like just words of wisdom throughout life. And it might have seemed very extreme at that moment, but just seeing how many women are being human trafficked, how many kids are disappearing, it's not as easy to pick people out when you're in a group. So just these words of wisdom that he gave us. So I'm sorry if I sound intense. I just feel like there's a lot of women out there that probably need to be a little bit wiser about going in groups, or a little bit wiser about having someone with you that you can trust, because as we know, some people are taking on friends, and they're setting them up to be kidnapped. So it's just an odd day we live in. So I do think it's important that your family knows where you're going, only because it's just important that you protect yourself. It doesn't mean you're not growing up, doesn't mean you're not independent. It's just we live in an odd world that's taking advantage of people, so we have to be wise.
But to add on to
Thank
that,
you.
there's so many people that don't have that. They don't have
That's
a
true.
family that they can turn to. They don't
That's
have,
true.
and like that's not to hate on anything, because in so
No,
many
no,
ways
no.
I agree. I definitely love that I can call up my parents at any moment and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I need," and I know that they're going to be there for me. But I
Yes.
also recognize that finding those trusted people is really hard when you haven't had them. Um,
Agreed.
because I have so many people in my life who have shared their own stories of, oh, I didn't have this, and so I
Yeah.
wanted it to be important that this person had it in me. um,
Yes. Good point, Kat. Exactly. And I feel like friends can come along and become that family for you, and you can, in a sense, as Amir called it, you could have a covering. But I do feel like we all have an innate sense when we met somebody that is actually quality, and somebody that you can trust, and somebody that my mom would say, bring into your inner circle. You don't bring everybody into your inner circle. But it's very important that, you do surround yourself with people that you can trust, and being accountable to those people, because it protects you.
Raul Duke, did you come off the mic, or Sayed? I saw someone come off the mic.
I did. I just wanted to say that I agree with Kat and Iris, but I also wanted to say, well, I am from El Salvador, and Latinos, we are judged, not even known for, but judged by living in a small house, 8 people together, and but
Not
what is
judged.
important, yeah, not just known for, but we're judged for that as well. But I see it from the point of view that that's what we're taught since we're little. Like I grew up with my cousins. Like we have a strong bond. Everybody thinks that we're siblings and we're cousins. Like I used to walk to daycare with my six cousins every day, back and forth. and my grandma used to pick us up. My dad was the one in charge of dropping us off. So it's a strong connection. But I think it's easy to say, oh, because my grandpa was like, family is the only people that is going to support you when no one is there. But some people will say, nah, family, sometimes family is your worst enemy. But that's because it was the wrong structure. There was not a bond within the family, So, and I understand what Kat's saying. People really didn't have that. So that's why you have to come, in their life and say, hey, I am that person. I'm here for you. And it's important for us to change that mentality. But I would say traditions, it is just as important that we try, transmit this and also teach our new generations how important this is, and not just say it, but more like show it and really practice what we're preaching. Because my grandpa was like, oh, you're not coming to see me this weekend. We were in trouble if we didn't gather with him. So earlier today, someone asked me what's the plan for Christmas. And I thought about it. I'm like, the same thing that I've been doing for the last 36 years, gathering with my family, all of us in the same house. So, yeah.
You on mute, Kelly?
I said Raul Duke or Trigger Mike. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Y'all really killed that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, y'all did a thing on families living together, and to Saira's point, yeah, I believe a lot of South Americans are teased. You said judge, it's teased. We tease. I got maybe 3 doors down from me. I don't know their nationality, but it's a lot of mugs in there. It's a lot of them in there. Because we don't like it because the HOA doesn't like people parking cars on the street. They take up the street. They got a lot of cars on the street. But no, it's cool. I love it. And you've heard me reference that this is the way it's supposed to be done. Somebody in that home is a citizen and is sacrificing their own personal space. And I'm actually going to call it the luxury of personal space. People think that they're granted or they have a right to personal space like your own house. Go around the world and see how people live.
Exactly.
Not out of necessity. And you'll realize that personal space, your own apartment and all that is a luxury. So you're not entitled to it. All right. So one of the points I wanted to make is that every culture that embraces togetherness and rejects individuality and sacrifices that luxury of personal space, they thrive in ways other ethnic groups don't. Okay, so when you want to talk about wealth building and all of these things we talk about and like why can't we get it together? It is this particular fact. No one has a good enough head start to build anything substantial. Right? No one has a good enough leg up to make it work. I would say even this could be factored into why some marriages fail within 5 years. When they cite finances, this is what they're talking about ultimately. No one sacrificed to give me a good enough head start to at least build something for my family, right? My father or anybody would just be like, well, move on into the house. It's paid for. Pay a bill here, bill there. Imagine doing that for 5 years straight and saving almost all of your salary. For some reason, I've noticed when you do things in a community sense and like in a home, everything just costs less, right? It's like you're making more spaghetti. So it just costs less. You're cooking more ground beef. It just costs less. But people aren't really thinking about that because they put a high demand and too much into that luxury of personal space. I believe society is going to correct itself. It always does. And that's what's happening now. Homes are too expensive for the average American. And now rent is going to become too expensive for the average American. So pushing people back into groups is going to be something that needs to be done out of necessity. And I don't want to sound like an agent of chaos, okay? But this is what's necessary for America. Absolute destruction of societal norms and everybody needing to rely on each other for necessity's sake. People don't change until you give them no choice. So somebody had said something about, well, maybe we can change. And no, people won't change. Give them no choice. Burn the whole institution down. Let them start from scratch. And you'll start to see the changes.
Raul Duke. Look at Amira. She's like, hallelujah.
You can 100% burn it down. I don't mind that one bit. But just from a standpoint, I'm an older millennial, so I literally was raised by the boomers. And so it was my job to be out and alone at 18. I went to college. I took student loans. I was in the dorms. But at 18, you're out the door. Okay. They'll help you. If you get in trouble, you go to jail or something. Not me, but they'll bail you out. You're in trouble with rent, they'll help you out a bit, you know. But for the most part, it is considered standard. At 18, you're out. And it's trial by fire. And the idea is that you'll become tougher, stronger, if you're having to strive for these things yourself. Now, whether or not that was correct compared to staying longer with your family and having a much more ease into the water standpoint, I'm actually more on that. I think it would be easier to do it that way. I think that would be a much more humane way to do it. I think Mike is right. That's the way that humanity should be. But that wasn't the choice I had. And so from where I came up, you were expected to make or break. Tough shit, get done. And your father would be a strong proponent of this, and you need to stand up. And it's a lot what Amira and Iris were talking about, to where you need to be strong enough to, if you need to take care of a woman. You also have to be that much stronger. And if you don't learn this at a young age, you're going to be weak when you're older. Whether or not this is right or wrong, the proper way for society to go, you know, we can argue about that. But that's how I came out. And so I had to put myself through college, work full time, 40 hours a week, go to class 18 hours a week, party 20 hours a week, easy. And you do it. And you have to get to a point to where you are man enough to not only take care of your own shit, but if, you fall in love with a woman, or you're just whatever, you need to be able to make sure that she's safe and that she can hang out with you and you can take care of her as well. Is that sustainable now? No, I think Mike's right. I think Kat's right as far as the economics go. Most people, because the way rent is, I could get a roommate whenever I was 19 and I could survive. It was a shitty place. We had no furniture, but it was our place. Nowadays, I don't think they can. And so we need to have much more of a family unit to help stand up and work with us in order to allow the younger generation to move forward. But that's just right now, that's where we are as far as inflation and housing prices go. These things don't last forever. It's just a cycle. But for our generation that's listening to us now, that's younger, that's 18, 19, you can't do what I did. I had to. I don't expect the rest of you to do it.